Hi, just Paulie here. Whee! A Japanese role-playing game today. So I've been asked about this by a few people. So this is Ryuutama. It's a Japanese designed game. It's very popular in Japan. And probably the elevator pitch for this one would be it's the Miyazaki role-playing game. The artwork in this is gorgeous. It's that wonderful kind of misty Miyazaki style fantasy Japanese art. It's a very soft style, and that very soft style carries through all of the gameplay. It's a game that would make a wonderful introduction for kids into role-playing games because it's quite clear and quite simple. It may not be to the taste of a bunch of power players, but it gives a wonderful game. So what you do in Ryuutama is you're living in this kind of fantasy-esque, anime-esque world, and the idea is that everyone goes on a journey sometime in their life. You might do it as a kid, you might do it in your old age, but the idea is that everyone goes off to explore the world. So you are generating a character that is leaving your home village on this thing. You could be an old lady, you could be a young kid. And what's quite nice about it is it's not about the killing and the hacking and the kung fu fighting. So your character could be a noble, or you could be a farmer, or you could be a baker, or all these wonderful little character types that you can take. You can be hunters and merchants and minstrels and so forth. Each one's as valid as the other because, again, you're going to be looking at adventures that don't necessarily run off your ability to just donk things on the head and take their stuff. So you split up your points quite simply, and what you have are dice types. Your characteristics are all designed to have even numbers which represent geodesic dice: d4, d6, d8, d10, d12. And this is what you'll be rolling when you are attempting characteristic rolls. So when you do a skill roll, the umpire will tell you, someone says, I want to try and beat these people in a foot race, or I'm trying to outrun this creature. All right, well, the umpire will decide that that's going to need your willpower and your strength or your endurance to do. So those two dice will be rolled against a target number, which is the difficulty number of the task. So it's a nice, simple system. What they've done all through this is they've laid everything out as if it's essentially as if it's a computer game. So they put icons in the text to represent things, and they've kind of brought those icons up later on in the text to show you that this is what this section is dealing with. So it's like, here are the icons for tests, and here are the icons for different spells and characteristics. And so they're trying to, it's got a little bit of the clarity, I guess, of a simple online role-playing game like Legend of Zelda. I think that's what they've been aiming for in this, because they know that they've got an audience to whom those kind of formats will be pretty clear and pretty simple. So again, very good one for bringing kids into, or for people who sort of grew up playing those games. They'll enjoy it. So the funny thing about this game is that the umpire plays a character. What you do as an umpire is you play one of these dragons. These are basically gods that run the world. In particular, they look after these travelers. And there are different types of dragons. You can choose to be green ones and red ones, and they have different realms that they look after. Some of them are sort of all darkness and shadow. Some of them are nature, and some of them are spells and mysticism, and some are water. You pick a dragon that is going to be guiding these adventurers through their adventure, and you design it as a character. It has spells and powers and things that it can bring in as gifts to give to the characters on the way, and it's got things that it can do to intervene. So you make up a menu of things that this character can do, and it's got little avatars that can turn up. It can be in human form or dragon form or sort of somewhere in between, and it can also sort of summon little creatures, messengers, and it's kind of what intervenes to nudge the characters along, to leave them something to help them on their way. But sometimes mischievously it's like, well, their journey's great, but it could be way more interesting if I do this. Some of these things are actually very capricious and can actually deliberately push people into trouble, and so you kind of know you might be dealing with, you know, a bit of an a-hole of a dragon, and just like, oh great, we're in trouble, our patron is actually pushing us along. And as you play the game, different dragons can step in and take you through different styles of play. So it's an interesting idea, and again, for a young dragon or a young dungeon master, a kid who's wanting to run their first game, or someone who, you know, is keen to get into it, that very specific sets of rules and guidelines of how to kind of intervene and how to push play along, and gifts that you can give and clues that you can present, that's not a bad way of getting someone into it. It's the first game I've ever seen where someone decided to kind of limit Dungeon Master tools. It's not really a limit, you can pick any of them you want, you can flip back and forth, but for a new umpire, what a great idea. They're not completely flummoxed by how on earth do I do this. So it's got little rules on how to create towns you wander. You've got very simple rules for tracking your resources. Some good resource management in the design here is food and water, and you can send the hunter out if you've got a hunter in the party to get things for you to eat. You can look for herbs to eat. All of your character skills come into sort of surviving as you wander along. You can stop at towns and you can look for work, which are often little side adventures, to get money to purchase food and so on, to go on and to replace equipment that wears. Like a good, simple, early computer game, it's got really nice equipment management and breakage rules, and it's all very, very simply done and very clear. So look, the artwork in this makes it worthwhile, if nothing else. The look at the design mechanisms for umpires and so on, that works quite well as well. It's got an abstracted system of combat where you have just a general battlefield map, which sort of, you put people into different active, you know, these guys are in the outside of the combat but could still help with magic or spells or firing arrows kind of distance, and these guys are more face to face. It's got a very simple way of figuring out who goes where, no battle maps needed, no accessories needed, and the battles are often rather adorable, where you kind of like, you know, you're piffing bits of rocks at the strange little cat demons that are throwing fish bones at you, or there are the most beautiful dragons and so on that you bump into in different regions, which are all kind of local nature spirits, and some of them are hostile and some of them are just wandering creatures, and it's built a beautiful magical world for you to wander into, and it's just got this overall feeling of good cheer to it. It is a cheerful, happy role-playing game, and it's a really interesting look at how the Japanese have run with the hobby and split off to make their very own things. This is probably the most popular role-playing game in Japan, particularly amongst school kids. There's a lot of material for this online. Kotohi.com has it. If you check the notes on the video, it'll have all of the link information. There are adventures and so on up there for this. There are additional bits and pieces. Look, if you've got kids that you're trying to introduce to gaming, or if you've got like a group that has a lot of anime fans in it, particularly fans of things like Totoro and even just good fun stuff like, you know, good old Tenchi Mayo and so on, I would highly recommend you take a look at this. It's not a common game. You won't find it on bookshelves. You're going to have to find it online. It deserves a lot more love outside Japan than it gets, because I think it's a truly excellent piece of design. Go online, take a look at it, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Cheers!